Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you can see me. Let me know where you're coming in from. I'll give another minute for people to jump in. Let's just make sure that we've got everyone on the line today. Today, we're going to have a chance to chat all about this whole idea of metrics. So I have a confession to make. Why was I late? Because I hate being late. I hate being late. Sorry. Why was I late? Because me and technology didn't get along well this morning. When I hit the live, I hit the live, and I was going live for myself, not for you all. So I had to restart the live. So that's why I was a couple minutes late. But I am here now. Let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're coming in from. If you happen to be watching on one of my Facebook groups, the Affluent Entrepreneur group or one of my other Facebook groups, I can't see your name. So do me a favor, type your name in the chat box when you make a comment. That way I can be more personal with you. I can call you by name and everything. So here's the deal. I want to have a conversation around something that a lot of our clients, a lot of my clients, the people that I've worked with over the years to help them build their wealth, to create their financial independence and scale their business and scale their money, have asked. They said, Mel, what do I need to be watching out for? What do I need to measure? What metrics, what things do I need to be concerned about? And so we're gonna talk a bit about that today. We're going to talk about what I call prime indicators, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the indicators you might need to think about if you're trying to build wealth or you're trying to build a business, or how I try to create indicators in a business. So, but before we get there, I just wanted to thank you for all of you that are commenting and jumping in and being part of this journey with me. It's been fun. We're going live almost every day now, and I'm going to continue to do this as best I can. Chris, it is good to have you as always. You're like one of the diehards. I love it. So I'm going to continue to do this. I may not be able to be live tomorrow, but we'll get back after tomorrow. So what I want to do is talk about today. And I'd love to hear from you all if you've got questions or anything like that. And I'll come on live and we'll start answering your questions and doing some of that type of stuff also, because I want to coach. I want to answer questions. I want to help you out. Here's the deal. My primary focus right now is to help people just like yourself scale your business, scale your money, find the financial independence, get back in control of your financial ship, to get back on the helm and be able to captain that ship and move forward. So you no longer have to sit back and feel like, 78% of the country is living check to check. That's a travesty, and we're going to solve it. We're going to solve it. I think that there's some things that we can do to help make that better and do that. So one of the things I think we need to consider is, what are the things that we need to look at? We got data coming at us all the time, but what does it mean? You listen to the financial markets, you look at the stock market, you listen to your banker, you listen to your accountant. What do I need to worry about? Because here's what I know. How do we know? And this is a question. How do we know that we're getting to where we want to go? I mean, think about it. We come into something, we want to start a business, we want to create financial independence, we want to do the things that we want to do, but how do we know we're on track? Because if we don't know we're on track and we don't have a way to measure it, if we don't have milestones to measure it, then we don't even know when we're going to get to the destination, because we probably haven't set the destination. So here's the thing. I think that we need to have 2 points, at least 2 points. Okay, so we can draw that line. Now, we may change the points at times, but we got to first understand where you're starting from. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Where are you starting from? What kind of business do you have? How large is your business? What's the profitability of the business? How much money do you have? What's your net worth? We'll talk about a lot of those terms. What's your cash flow? What's your debt? We need to get real and get honest with where we are today. And when we get real and we get honest with where we are today, it's only then we can then design a plan to move to where we want to be tomorrow. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Then the question is the second point. The second point is, where do you want to be? What does it look like? I know for me, as I grew my business, I had a number in mind. And I'm gonna just jump to the iPad real quick here, because if this is now, whoops, let's get rid of that and let's go to this. If this is now, and this is where we are now, there's some point in the future. There's some point in the future. Now for you, I don't know when that's going to be. There's some point in the future. It could be a year. It could be 5. It could be 10. It could be 30. I don't know. But there's this point in the future where time is going to go. Okay. Time is automatically going to go. And I'm going to just move this down a second. Let's just do this. And so we can't control that. But here's the thing that I also realize is that as we move forward, there's a couple of different things that can happen. We have the possibility of just kind of going along without a plan, going along without a strategy, going along without someone in your corner helping you out, going along without an understanding and doing that. And we might, we might get where we want to get, or here's even worse case. Hey, if everyone's coming in, as you guys are coming in, let me know where you're coming in from. And if you're in one of my Facebook groups, do me a favor. Post your name as your comment, because I can't see your name. It comes up as Facebook user. And frankly, you deserve more respect than that. All right. But good morning to y'all. So here's the thing. As I was saying, that if for instance, we ignore our financial future, what's going to happen? Here's what I see, and I see it happening right now, is that at some point we have a situation where our financial future gets destroyed because we're kind of ignoring it. Then there's a time where we sit back and we might do some things, but we're not doing everything, and we're not guided in what we're doing, and we're being reactive to. We talked about this with the money emotions in a previous live, so make sure you watch that. But we're being reactive to the things that are going on, and so what's happening is we're reacting up and down our emotions. And what ends up happening really is that we actually don't move. We do a lot of gyrations. I mean, it's like a day with Elvis. All right, a lot of gyrations, but we ain't moving anywhere. We ain't getting anywhere. We're not. So there's a lot of emotions and everything, and we just in this situation we just exist. And then there's those that they get the right plan. They get the right mentors. They get the right guidance. They get the right advisors. They get the right strategies. They take the time to learn. They take the time to get in the game. They take the time to be diligent. They take the time to understand the metrics and to measure things and to monitor things and to take a proactive role in their financial future. And here's what happens with it is that they ultimately find themselves up here, elevated. And so here's the thing that I'd love to have you realize is that if we start to look at this section here, all three of those lines, they don't look like they're very far apart. So you really can't tell the difference between one person or the next. I mean, you might look at yourself right now. In fact, if you do look at yourself right now, ask yourself, are you on line 1, line 2, or line 3? Because the key is that I want to get everyone on line 3. The challenge is that in this space right here, from the outside, it doesn't look like anyone's any different. But what happens when we get to this space here? Let me just highlight that with a different color. What happens when we get here or here? You see the gap? the gap starts to widen. And at some point, this gap between these lines becomes irrecoverable. And so the idea behind this is that if we monitor, if we manage, if we do the things that we are supposed to do effectively, so then what ends up happening is we don't end up on the red line, and we don't end up on the yellow line. We end up on the green line. Now, here's the other beautiful thing. When you follow a proven process, when you follow someone who's done it, when you have the right mentors, instead of just being elevated, what ends up happening is that instead of just being elevated, what ends up happening is that you actually end up here accelerated. And this is where I want us to play. What does it take to get you in this game where you elevate your wealth, where you elevate your financial independence, or you accelerate your wealth and you accelerate your financial independence? Hopefully that makes sense to you. Hopefully you see the need for this, because the bottom line is the future's coming whether you like it or not. The question is, what are we going to do to guide that future? And the way we do that is we do it by making sure that we have the right metrics that we're measuring in our business and in our life and in our finances, and that we take an active, proactive role in doing that. And I get it. Maybe you're sitting back right now and saying, but I'm not a numbers person. I'm not good with numbers. I don't do the math, or I'm not, money's complicated, investing's complicated. I get it. And I'm not asking you to become a PhD in finance. What I'm asking you to do is to just take an active role. That does mean that probably you're going to need to be educated. Now, I'm preaching to the choir, because you wouldn't be here learning from me if you didn't have a desire to up-level your financial game. But those that are prepared to up-level their financial game, those that are willing to do the work that others aren't willing to do, they will live a life that others are never going to get. And I don't mean that in any kind of insulting way. It's just the facts that if you're willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do, you're going to get the things that other people can't get. And it doesn't mean things as in material things. It simply might be things as in time. It may be things as in choices. It may be things as in relationships, as in life experiences, the ability to travel, the ability to give back. It may be things is to get behind a movement, to get behind a mission, to fund something, to do those things. That's where I want you to play. Okay, so let's talk about this idea, because if we don't get this right, you could end up on the red line. I don't want you on the red line. I don't want you on the yellow line. Let's get you on the green lines. And everything that we're doing to make that happen is specific to get you on the green line. Now, some of you know this already. If you don't, and someone can post this in the comments for me, that would be great. I'm doing a masterclass. I am actually doing a masterclass, free masterclass on Thursday next week, on March 11th, next week. That I'm going to talk about the 5 wealth principles for today's entrepreneurs. These are the 5 principles that I think that we need to get into place to create a life of affluence, to become what I call the affluent entrepreneur. What are the things that are going to create lasting freedom for you, a lasting lifestyle, and build true wealth? So join me on that. Go to melabraham.com/workshop. Join me in that workshop, and it's going to be a 90-minute training. I'm going to give you some frameworks. We're going to talk about the 3 pillars of the affluence blueprint. And I'll talk about some of the next steps that you can do to build your wealth, to get yourself on that green line and stay on that green line. So I'll, if someone can post that in the comments, that's great. And I'll make sure that we post it also, so you have access to that. But let's jump back to, I guess that was kind of like a commercial. So let's just jump back to the training. Let's jump back in, because I want to talk about this idea of metrics. So here's the thing. I want to talk about two levels of metrics. And And on the Gwen, it's going to be your birthday. Awesome. We're going to celebrate on the masterclass for you. And I see some friends here from Amit. So good to have you here too, Julia from BC, Canada. So here's the thing. There's two levels of metrics I want to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is your business and how I look at metrics in the business. How do we assign metrics? Because people start looking at things and say, I need to hire people. Like, for instance, right now, just, I'm hiring people. Many of you know that I've been through a 2-year, basically a 2-year journey of cancer journey. I go back in tomorrow for another round of series of treatments. They're all maintenance treatments. I'm cool. I feel good. I feel great. I got another scope in April, but I'm back in the game is what I'm getting at. And in order to get back in the game, I needed to hire some people because there's elements of my business that I'm hands off. I'm not going to do because my time and my lifestyle become extremely important. Now you're going to do the same thing. The question is, when you hire someone, what's the definition of success? Your definition of success and their definition of success. See, if your definition of success is vastly different than their definition of success, they think they're doing a good job and you think they're doing a horrible job, or vice versa. They think they're doing a horrible job and you think they're doing a great job. What we need to do is take both definitions of success and align them. Hopefully that makes sense. And so when we do that, we'll look at understanding how that plays out. So as I hire people, I need to get really clear on what the definition of success is for them and I, and make sure we're aligned. And in the process of that alignment, I then set some success metrics, okay? What I call prime indicators for each individual, okay? Prime indicators. And I'll walk you through what those are and how we, the characteristics of it. You'll have to decide what's the price or the primary indicator for each person. So I'm hiring I have a Facebook ads person. I have a social media person. I have a podcast person because I'm launching a new show coming out May 3rd called the Affluent Entrepreneur Show. Watch for it, May 3rd. All right. Going to be where podcasts come to you everywhere and video. So we're doing video and podcast. So watch for that. But here's the thing that we got to look at. Every single person I work with has at least one and maybe two prime indicators. These are the measurements and the metrics that will determine, are they doing an effective job or are they not? So let's talk about prime indicators, and then we'll talk about the kinds of indicators that might come into play. So I see one, someone's asking, which metrics are most important to track in business. We'll hit on that. Make sure that I get to that. If I don't hit it, you will ask the question again in a moment. So let me jump to the iPad. Let's just talk about what are prime indicators. And I know this is kind of going against the things that I usually teach, because I'm one of those that says, no, you don't use acronyms, but prime indicators, prime is an acronym in this case. So we're going to talk about it. So prime indicators. Okay. So here's what it is, because here's how this starts to play out. I need to know if I have no indicators for my team, if I don't have indicators for my business that tell me that I'm on the trajectory, that I'm on course to get to the result that I want, you're going to get honestly, what ends up happening is your results are completely inconsistent. You are actually going to be stressed out because you're just happenstance doing things and you're reactive to things. And so inconsistent results, it's going to be stressful. It's inefficient. It's going to be completely dysfunctional. And in the process, because of the dysfunction, the inefficiency, the stress, and the reactiveness, you're going to have lower profitability. So the idea behind the prime indicators is to eliminate all of that in the business. And so the prime indicators are the 5 characteristics that every indicator needs to have. And we'll talk about what indicators that may be. So the first thing is this. Prime indicator the P stands for practice. Okay? So practice. Meaning that the indicator needs to be a practice. It needs to be a process. It needs to be something that is used each and every day, each and every week. It needs to be part of a system and part of the way they show up. Okay? So they need to be measuring it. A lot of times they'll have their prime indicators, their measurement units on the wall, on their computer, on their desk, so they know all the time where they're at. That's what the P stands for. Then the R, let's give a little bit of variety. Let's put a little color to this show. Here we go. The R stands for results. So this is that it has to drive the results that you want in the business. In other words, ultimately the results in the business is to have higher profitability, growth in profits. So somehow that indicator needs to translate into profitability. Somehow that indicator needs to translate into the results that you are trying to achieve. If it is not connected to any results, it's a benign indicator. It's a useless indicator that you're putting in there just to measure something. But if it's not getting us to the results, why do we take the time to do that? So it has to be a results driving indicator. Then we go to I, and this is really big. Individual. Y'all know that my iPad doesn't have spell check, so if I misspell, forgive me. Individual. This is something, believe it or not, what I see in businesses. When you create an indicator, that indicator needs to be assigned to one individual. Assigned to one individual. If we take an indicator, say we take something like the collections on our receivables, and I assign it to 2 people in the business, in the company, okay? I now am going to have finger pointing going on. I now have the potential for them going, well, I thought he was doing it. And she said, I thought she was doing it. And now it's not being managed. There has to be an individual absolutely responsible for the indicator. Now, there may be other people that are feeding into it. However, there has to be one person that you get to go to and say, how is that indicator? How are we doing on that indicator? Whether it's social media posts, whether it's followers, whether it's click-through rates, whether it's email open rates, who do we go to and who's responsible for managing that indicator? So number two, hey, Rex, it's so good to have you here. And Suzette, oh my God, it's good to have you. So it has to be individual. Then number 4, it needs to be measurable. Listen, if I don't have something that I can measure, then I have no way to know whether we're doing well okay or not. So for instance, my Facebook ads person, we're looking at cost per lead. We're looking at earnings per lead. We're looking at a couple of metrics that we know we can actually measure. Okay. If I can't measure it, then I can't evaluate it. So it must be something that's measurable in doing that. And that leaves us with the last part of Prime. Is that it elevates. And what do I mean by that? Is that if we manage this indicator effectively, it elevates everything in the business. It increases everything in the business. So your prime indicators will have these 5 characteristics. They are going to be a process or a practice that is adhered to and done on a regular basis. They're going to drive results. They're going to be connected to the bottom line results that you're trying to create. They're going to be individually accountable to them. They're going to be specifically measurable, and they're going to elevate the operations of the business. So let's just talk about this, because here's the way we start to look at, and the question was asked, what metrics do you track in your business? Now, there's a whole host of metrics you can track. I'm not one that says, let's just get a bunch of data for data's sake. You know, there's some data wonks out there that love data. So give me data, give me data, give me data. But, and I love data because I'm a left brain thinker, an accountant, and that type of thing. But I also love my time, and I don't just like digging through data for the sake of digging through data. So the question is there a metric in your business, a single metric in your business that starts to really drive the bottom line? And I'm going to give you an example from my business, and then we'll talk about the metrics for your personal wealth too. All right. Hopefully this is hitting home for you and you're seeing the value in it. But in my business, in the valuation side of my business, at one point I was doing a ton of valuation. I still do a fair amount, and I would get a valuation project. I would do litigation. I would do expert witness testimony. And so there's a lot of metrics to manage in my business: receivables, cash flow, profitability, realization. But you know what was the one driving metric to manage the growth and the profitability of the business? Okay, the one driving metric that I had to manage primarily, and this is the idea behind this, is to swim upstream. I want to go as far upstream as possible, because if I can manage the most upstream metric that has the ripple effect down in my business, then I have the most I have the most notice, you know, the most warning when things aren't going right or things are going well. Okay, and here's what it was in my business. What we figured out is that it had nothing to do with billings. It had nothing to do with realization. It had nothing to do with collections. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with how many calls I had with attorneys. And we saw a direct relationship, a direct impact in 120 days to 180 days, that when my calls with attorneys dropped, my revenues dropped. When my calls with attorneys increased, my revenues increased. So I knew that if I managed the number of calls that I was having with attorneys on a regular basis, then I could manage the cash flow of the business, and I could manage it upstream 120, 180 days out. I knew what would happen. That became my primary prime indicator. And in each business, it's different. You should be able to find it in your business. So what I want you to be able to do is look at that. Now, there's other indicators. For instance, when I had a firm when I had 30 people working for me at one point in time. And one of the prime indicators, honestly, from a customer service standpoint, was our receptionist. Does she answer the phone within 2 rings? Because it created a customer experience. How do we do that? Okay. Everyone can have a prime indicator. Now, let's look at some of the things that you can do as far as the things in business to measure. Bottom line is the most important thing to a business is cash flow. It's cash flow. And what that means is, how much cash are you generating? And not only that, how much cash are you keeping? All right. It's fine to sit back and go, I got a lot of cash coming in, but if it's going out the door in expenses and other stuff, it's not doing you any good. But in order to manage the cash flow, there's some things upstream that you need to manage, because the cash flow is a byproduct of everything else you're doing in the business. So we need to manage the stuff upstream, like our sales, and that sales thing. Like, for instance, my wife's in a sales industry. She manages a big team. She in the Western region, and reach and frequency is a big deal. How far are they reaching? How frequently are they connecting? And they tabulate that. That is the prime metric that is measurable, and that when they hit their reach and frequency, guess what? The sales numbers increase. And we need to do the same thing. What is it in your business? And look at every single person in your business and say, what is their prime metric? What is the one or two things that we can measure success on and know that they are being effective with the work that they're doing, that's driving the results and elevating what we're doing? Hopefully this makes sense. So let's talk about a couple of things to watch out for in business, and then I want to talk about a few things to watch out for personally in doing that. So, because if we get the prime stuff back, now all of a sudden, instead of inconsistent operations, revenues, and profits, you've got consistent. You've got a cohesive system that is measuring things on a regular basis. You're no longer inefficient and ineffective. You're effective. You have higher profits. You've got a functional team, and you're guided not by happenstance. You're guided by the metrics. And now we know everyone's paddling in the same direction, because if you set the metrics up towards that direction, everything's going there. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a couple of things I want you to watch out for in businesses. Obviously, the biggest thing in a business is going to be, one, cash flow. In and out. I want you to look at this historically, but I also want you to look forward. When I was working for one of the large accounting firms in downtown Los Angeles, they actually had us project our time and how we were going to use our time the next 2 weeks, because what that allowed them to do is know what the cash flow or the billings would be in the future. So I would be looking forward and saying, what do I got going? So you don't get blindsided with stuff going, wait, I don't have cash coming in. I got all these expenses. Okay. So this means I need to know where my income sources are, and I need to know where my expenses are. Someone's fingers needs to be on that pulse. Now, it may or may not be you. Ultimately, everything resides with you as the business owner, but it may not be you on an ongoing basis, but someone is reporting to you. Someone is reporting to you. 2, I'm going to call it client or prospect reach or growth. If your list is not growing, if your customers aren't going, if you're not touching the customers either more often, okay, so more often or further, in other words, you're touching people that you haven't spoken to before, then you're becoming stagnant in your growth, in your customer growth. So these are things that are at the top line. Then there's other things that you can look at from a financial standpoint. If you're selling things on credit, then I need to make sure that my accounts receivable days, I want them less than 30 days. Meaning that no one's carrying, I'm not carrying them, I'm not banking them. Okay. Along the same lines, my bill pays. Now, I don't like I pay everything at the first of the month pretty much, and I pay it up front. So I don't necessarily follow this rule because of the way our cash comes in. But what we don't want to do is I want to make sure that I'm paying my bills at typically less than my accounts receivable collections. I mean, not less than accounts receivable. So here's what let me give it. So if I am getting paid every 30 days from a customer, I can't sustain myself if I'm paying my bills every 20 days. because there's a difference there. So if I'm receiving money in 30 days, I'm going to pay in either 30 days or 35 days or something like that. So I want to make sure that there's not a mismatch between collections and payments. And so I may need to negotiate my payments, and I may have to have credit policy. Now you can have someone in here that's managing the accounts receivable, the collections. Now, some of us just sell on a credit card. They swipe the credit card and that's it. So these are big things. Now, each business, then there's some other expenses. I want to look at my expense numbers at least quarterly to evaluate whether they're making me money. Okay. Sometimes we get into, I bet right now, if I got into your bank account, there's probably subscriptions in there that you're paying for that you aren't using, and you're keeping things just in case. So we want to evaluate our expenses quarterly at a minimum. I look at mine on a monthly basis, and then I do a cleaning of the house every year. So that's some of the key elements in business. There's a couple of other things that I would look at. I look at revenue per employee. I look at my margins, my profit margins. So in an online business, you've heard me say that profit margins in an online business without a big team and everything are typically going to be 50 to 80%. Okay. In a bricks and mortar business, that's going to be a bit less, but we should be running it effectively. And then I'm going to look at do an ROI analysis on every dollar spent. Before I spend it, I'm asking myself, what is it bringing me back? What is it returning to me, if that makes sense? So I'm going to look at it from that perspective. Now, that's in the business. What happens and how do we deal with it in the when we talk about personal finance, wealth building? How do we track? There's a couple of things that I would do here. The first is this. There's three primary things for wealth building that I think you want to make sure you have your fingers on the pulse of. Okay. The first is this, is your net worth. Okay. You may have heard this term before, but your net worth. And that is basically, if I drew this out for you, so the net worth, this is all your assets. Now I'm gonna change this a little bit, but all your assets. This is what you own. This is going to be things like real estate, cash, investments. Okay. And then on the other side, this is the liabilities and debt. This is what you owe. This is going to be things like mortgages, credit card debt, other obligations. Okay. And we take and we subtract the liabilities from the assets, and that gives us net worth. Now, hopefully, this is a positive number. Now, not all net worth is created equal. This is probably the biggest number that you want to track for you. Okay. Not all net worth is created equal. What I want you to track is something that I call investable net worth. What is that? So what is that? An investable net worth is this. I know the American dream is to own your house. Okay. I have a beautiful home in a beautiful place, live on the beach, hear the waves at night, 180-degree view of Catalina Island. I mean, we live in a beautiful place. And I will tell you, and I've told my wife this, she hates when I do this, but it's true. It is the absolute worst investment I could make. Absolute worst investment I could make, because it's not an investable asset unless I sell it or I rent it, because I'm putting money into a home that just sits there. We get enjoyment out of it. So hear me out on this. It's just not a good financial investment from a cash flow standpoint. My point of investable net worth is sitting back and saying, how much in investments and assets do you have that is going to earn you money down the road? And so I don't usually include my house in that, but I'm going to include my 401k. I'm going to include my defined benefit plan, my pension plans, my IRA accounts. I'm going to include my other investments. I'm going to include any Airbnbs or rental properties that I have, real estate investment. I'm going to include all of those things, because all those things are investments generating cash flow. But the key is this: I need to measure my net worth from 1 year to the next. And I want to see that investable net worth constantly growing. I want to get to a specific number at the end of the days when you decide that you want to retire. So net worth is the primary thing that I want you to measure. Now, secondary to that is really driving the net worth, is the secondary to that, and what's really driving the net worth is paying attention and evaluating your monthly cash flow and expenses. So the income that's coming out from your business, from investments, and the expenses that are going out. I need to scale the income so I can scale my money, and I want to decrease my expenses as much as possible. Now, I am not one that says I don't want you living on ramen noodles and mac and cheese and all that stuff, but I want you to be conscious, aware, and intentional with how you're spending your money. And then the third primary metric I want you to measure is your savings rate. Okay, so income comes in, expenses go out, and I save. I want to know that my savings rate is increasing over time, because that's what's going to generate more investable net worth for you to live. Hopefully this is making sense to you. And doing that. So I'm going to manage my savings rate, year over year growth, and investable net worth. Those are the things that I will watch out for. Now, specific to investments, we can talk about those another time, whether I'm in the stock market or so. There's other metrics that I'm going to watch out for. But from a wealth standpoint, I manage my income cash flow, my outgo cash flow, my savings rate, and my net worth. Those are the metrics that I'm gonna follow. So I hope that this helps with doing that, and hopefully that gives you at least something. I mean, I could go on for days on this if we could make it. Those of you who know me that I could. So here's the deal. I'll stop here. I got more that I can go through, but we'll stop here for now. And I'm going to see if there's any questions. But the bottom line is this: if you truly want to be financially independent, if you truly want to be financially liberated, if you truly want to live an affluent life and be an affluent entrepreneur, then we got to get the metrics that matter. We got to get into the numbers game. We got to play the numbers game, and we need to manage it. I mean, I don't have to tell you that if you don't manage it, it ain't going to matter. If you don't manage it, you're not going to get to where you want to go. And if you do, it's primarily by coincidence. So let's make sure that we get in the game and do the game properly. So if I can help, you let me know. If you've got questions, you let me know. I will be here. Plus, remember, on March 11th, 9 a.m. California time, I'm going to be doing a special masterclass. It's free. We're going to talk about the 5 principles for today's entrepreneurs, and we're going to talk about how affluent entrepreneurs are building true wealth and creating lasting freedom. So here's the deal. I'm going to talk about the affluence blueprint there. We'll talk about the 3 pillars, and I'm going to give you some of that stuff and ask you to make 5 critical decisions in your financial life. So join me. It's free. We'll talk about the next steps that you can do with me at the same time. But go to melabraham.com/workshop. Join me in the workshop. I would love to see you there, because I would also love to make sure that you are financially independent much sooner than you ever thought was possible. I'll give you for instance, she wasn't even a student. She actually saw one of my presentations, listened to one of the presentations similar to what you're going to hear on Thursday. And she went away for 10 months. And she came back and said to me, I got to let you know, I paid off over $100,000 in debt, and we're building wealth now. We're building wealth now. And within 10 months, she says, I thought I was going to be in debt for the rest of my life, paying that off, but you gave me the process to build wealth. So join me in the workshop. Let's see what we can do. Let's make this happen, because I truly believe that affluence, financial freedom, and your possibility is a birthright. So let's keep rocking this thing. So, all right. So let me know. Let me see if we've got any kind of questions coming in around any of this. If you're in one of the groups, do me a favor. Thank you, Suzette, for posting that stuff in there. Someone wants a membership site. That may be in the works. First things first, I'm launching my new show, the Affluent Entrepreneur Show, May 3rd. So that's going to be a weekly show. We'll get that off the ground first, and then we'll talk about maybe membership and all that stuff and stuff. So to help people out on an ongoing basis. But that's it. Let's just see if there's any other questions. Rex is in the house. Gwen, I can't believe it's going to be birthday. Gwen is in Long Beach. She's not far from me. So, cool. All right. Well, I've been rolling for about 45 minutes. I keep saying I'm going to keep these things short, but they just don't go short. I'm sorry. But I hope you're getting value out of it. Do me a favor. If you know someone that needs to hear this message, go ahead and let's just share it out. Let's get this out there. Let's give them the tools. Let's re-equip them. Let's re-empower them to get out in the world, take control back, and live a life that's financially rich, that's affluent, that is what they deserve. So blessings to you all. You have an incredible, incredible day. I won't be live tomorrow, but watch for the next announcement. We'll see if I can do it over the weekend. I do start another round of treatments tomorrow, so I'm going to be out of pocket tomorrow, but I'll be fine. So they're not chemo, they're not any of that. It's just maintenance treatments, immunotherapy treatments. But I start that tomorrow morning, so I'll be out of pocket tomorrow, but not for long. All right. So in the meantime, shoot me some questions in the DMs, in the comments. Let's accumulate them. Let me see if I can help you. Even specific questions about finances and IRAs and whatever else you're trying to do in your business or your finances. Let's get those things answered. Let's keep you moving forward. Or if you're stagnant or stalled, let's get you moving forward. All right, because you deserve it. Your future deserves it. Your legacy deserves it. And the generations deserve it, and the people you serve deserve it. And let's give you the peace of mind. All right. Blessings to you. You have an incredible, incredible day today, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.